Hello, so I'm back from my occasional upload. I thought I was gonna read a lot more over the course of the break because I just had surgery, so I had a lot of time on my hands, couldn't do anything. So, I actually didn't read that much. I was reading this book, Life Before Man by Margaret Atwood, almost dropped it. Um, and it just like it wasn't bad. I did like it. It just was very slow. Like it's not like the kind of book that you're just like waiting to get home so you can read it. It's more like a chore to read it. That sounds very critical. Like I genuinely did think it was a good book. Like I enjoyed it the whole time. It was just very slow, and it doesn't help that this copy is very like 70s super dense text. Anyway, I haven't actually read any Margaret Atwood before, so this is my first, and I think this is a very early work because like The Handmaid's Tale isn't even on, like it's not even mentioned when it talks about her other work and everything on the back. So I think this is like very old. Also, there are like a lot of typos in here, like at least with this copy. So I feel like this was written before she had the funds to like get a better copy editor or like line editor or whatever. This is the only book I have read since the last video. No, that's not true. I finished So Sad Today by Melissa Broder, The Year of Magical Thinking by, why am I forgetting her name? What is wrong with my brain right now? Joan Didion, that is her name. Why am I thinking Joni Mitchell? What the heck? Like, okay, anyway. I finished that, and there's this book called Path of the Heart that I got. It's like a collection of short stories that I got at the Cotton Factory when like the Hamilton Mountain Writers Guild was there. Just because I don't know, I think it's like interesting to talk to like actual authors and everything. I'm gonna be honest. The Path of the Heart was not like the best thing ever. I think it may have been like, I mean, it was a collection of short stories by different people, so it's like some of them were pretty good and did exactly what they're meant to do, and then some of them were like, why did I even read that? I thought about reviewing it and I was just like, I don't have a lot to say. So Sad Today, I'm gonna mention it quickly. I was not liking it by the point that I was in like the middle. I was just kind of confused about like, why am I reading this? I guess you don't need a point to everything. Like I tend to want a clear point to everything I read, but like maybe that's not necessary. I don't know. She's very crass and she writes as if she's tweeting all of the time. For like younger readers, that might be like a really good way to get into reading. Like I'm gonna admit my reading sins right now. I was like not into reading really. Like it was hard. It was time consuming. There were other things that like gave me more dopamine in my life, so I just didn't read much growing up. But oh, y'all are gonna bully me, and rightfully so. But I read Shane Dawson's books. You can assassinate me, like I won't even be upset about it, like understandable. I read Shane Dawson's books when I was like 14 maybe, and like, you know what, I didn't dislike them, but it reminds me of that. Like So Sad Today reminds me of like I hate my selfie. Like that's probably like the worst criticism she's ever received, and I'm so sorry about that, Melissa Broder. The style was similar. Even like the nature of the stories were similar, like just embarrassing shit and like self-hatred and just like feeling disgusting. They're not that unalike. Anyway, that's my hot take on that. For The Year of Magical Thinking, I liked the beginning, but then like somebody at work actually came in and they saw that I had a copy of it and they said they read it, but they were actually kind of disappointed in it. And I was like, oh, why? Like I was at the beginning of the book at this point. And they said by the middle of the book, it kind of like isn't about what the synopsis kind of says that it's going to be about anymore. So like, it's not really about John's death. The book is a memoir, by the way, of Joan Didion's like like her husband dying and then her daughter being in the hospital. But the way that the book is advertised is very much just like it's about the year that her husband died. And so it does like take a turn in most of the book being about her daughter actually being hospitalized and like all of her health issues. I went to a book launch fairly recently for a book called, what was it called? Oh my god. Okay, it was called Chasing Zebras, and it was by Margaret, ooh, I don't know how to say her last name, Noaskit. I'm just gonna put it on the screen. Yeah, but she, it's a memoir. It's about like her, I didn't read it, but I just wanted to go to a book event. When she was speaking about it, she was saying how it's like, I think she said like medical creative nonfiction. I don't remember what she referred to it as, but it was like someone in the audience asked her to define what that is, and she described it as like you're not writing out like the medical notes, but you're writing out like the experience of like the more human experiences of being like in healthcare and everything, which I feel like that's super specific to like maybe too specific to be a genre, but like okay. In hindsight, I was thinking like The Year of Magical Thinking kind of reminds me of the same thing. If you liked either of those books, you'd probably like the other book. I don't know. Okay, anyway, actually now to the book that I came here to talk about. The story is told from third-person perspective and follows the lives of one couple, Nate and Elizabeth, as well as the people they become involved with. The character Chris is dead from the beginning of the book by suicide. Chris was Elizabeth's former lover, whom she had had an extramarital affair with, and Leshaya, spelled Lesje, is another character who begins in a long-term relationship with someone named William and eventually becomes involved with Nate. The story, like trying to just describe it the best way I can, it's just like it's a story of an already failed marriage and just how that partnership is doing beyond the breaking point. Why can't I speak? A lot about like family dynamics and like non-traditional family dynamics and you know, our relationships with each other and how like children, like having children affects that, and you know, like just childhood in general, like how that affects the future. But it's all like very personal. Like not a whole lot happens actually. It like everything has already happened. Everything significant basically has already happened in this book, and you get like glimpses of memories about them, but not a lot actually happens in the timeline of the story. It's just like a couple separating, basically. Leshaya, who was previously with William, so Leshaya gets with Nate, who is married to Elizabeth. Elizabeth is very much, she's like a really interesting character. She's very, I don't know, I like love Elizabeth. Like, she's exactly the type of character that I like stan. She's not exactly a good person, but nobody in the story is painted as like a good or bad person. They're all just like very like flawed people, but they're people, you know what I mean? Even like when she knows her husband isn't faithful to her, she doesn't mind as long as like she still owns him. I love Elizabeth. She's just like, she's very complicated and I love her for that. Is that like toxic? Is that a toxic trait? I think like the best way to describe Elizabeth is like calculated. Like even when things are like not going her way, she still kind of like finds a way to control the situation, and she's like very surprised when she can't control the situation, which does like kind of happen by the end of it. Another character I really liked at first, I don't know, I was gonna say I really liked her and then I realized, do I though? Okay, anyway, her name is Leshaya. I already told you about her, so I don't know why I'm repeating that, but she, I think, I don't know if this was intentional, but she like immediately from the beginning struck me as like a female with like autism, and it was actually pretty good representation in my opinion. Like she's a paleontologist and she is like very interested in like dinosaurs and everything, and like that's why the book is called Life Before Man, because she's just like really interested. Like her special interest would be like prehistoric times. And then Nate, I actually really like Nate. Yeah, he like cheats on his wife, but his wife also cheats on him, and they're both kind of like okay with it. Like, is it even cheating anymore? Like, they both kind of like, they get like kind of upset about it. But like, for the most part, they're just like, you know what, that's life, I guess. But it was like an interesting way to like illustrate infidelity. Like, you never see it presented that way in any story, really. Like, it's not just like this tragic situation. I mean, it's obviously like still upsetting, but I'm not trying to be like cheating isn't that bad. But like, I think sometimes it's presented as like this extremely dramatic situation, and maybe not everybody experiences it as that, you know, like a couple who's married and like they have children together, like maybe there's ways that people handle it that like people who are younger in like my situation, or you know, like they just haven't experienced something like that, like they can't even imagine how another person would experience that. Like, you just assume that if you get cheated on or whatever, you should be furious, or like you should react in this way, and really, like, why should you just react how you react. Also, I like that this presentation of marriage, even though the marriage is basically like ending, it's still kind of comforting in a way that like the partnership doesn't end. Like, they continue to be functional co-parents, and like they continue to be civil. I mean, Elizabeth is civil in like a very like intentional, like calculated type of way, because she's trying to control the situation still. But you know, like they function better than how I've seen a lot of adults in my actual life behave when they get divorced or whatever. One thing in the book that I didn't like that much was Nate was kind of procrastinating moving out of Elizabeth's house and moving in with Lashaya, because he was like, I don't want to like traumatize the kids. And I get that this was like completely like a different time and people didn't really understand the effects of like divorce on like children yet, like because it was just less common, and it probably would have been a more severe effect than it is now. But in general, I don't like the idea of like staying together for the kids, because it's like, I mean, I don't know, I feel like I have mixed feelings about it, because like, if you're gonna stay together, like that's a good reason to stay together, obviously. And I do believe like you shouldn't just give up. Like, you should, if you married someone, you should want to keep working on it. And I do think that like, if both parties want to keep working on it, then you can always fix the situation, I think, as long as like actual abuse isn't going on. Like, I very much believe that like love is a choice, not a feeling. I mean, it's like a feeling for a bit, but after that point, it's always like that feeling is always going to dissipate a bit with anybody. There's never going to be like this perfect person who it just is effortless with, and you're always going to have to come to a point where you just have to try. Like, it comes down to, are you going to put in the effort or not? And I just like the fact that even though clearly they had major issues, like there were like multiple occasions of like infidelity on both of their parts, you know, like they still kept deciding to come back to each other and work it out. And I just think that that's really admirable. Like, if you don't do that, that's your life. Like, I mean, like, I'm not against divorce. My current partner is divorced, so like if it weren't for divorce, I wouldn't be seeing the person I'm seeing. So obviously I'm not against divorce, but you know, I think like everyone's situation is unique, you know, and if both people want to separate, I think that that is a great idea. But you know, if like one person wants to and the other person wants to keep working on it, I feel like the other person like owes it to the other person to like at least try, you know. Again, like this is if like actual abuse isn't happening. Yeah, I mean, like things with like infidelity, like I have never knowingly been cheated on as far as I can tell. So I don't know how I would actually react in that situation. Like, I don't want to like be like, oh, I would handle it like this and like be so mature when like I have no idea, you know. I would probably lose my mind. I just like seeing this like functioning partnership, even though like neither of them are like living their best life. I'm gonna be real with you, like I don't think we all need to be like living our best lives. Like compromise is part of life. Parts of your life are gonna be deeply miserable, and like that's just how it is. You can't be like chasing these super high highs all of the time. Like that's not really living an actual life, you know, that's living a complete fantasy. And I think like that's one reason that bugs me when people like get divorced. Like it's not my business. It doesn't matter. Like you can do what you want with your life and I'm not gonna like actually judge you, you know? But like I wouldn't do this. Like when somebody is just like their reason for separating or getting divorced is I'm just not happy right now, but nothing is really like wrong. They're just not happy or they're just feeling disconnected from their partner, or you know, like sex isn't good anymore, whatever. Like that is all stuff that can be worked on. It's literally all stuff that can be worked on, and maybe it's not going to be like crazy insane good anymore, but why do you need it to be? Like aren't there other things that are fulfilling in your life? Like, especially if you have kids, like, I don't know. That's my opinion. Oh my God, I'm making a mess. Okay. Personally, I would rather have like commitment and like security and just like being comfortable with somebody rather than have everything be like exciting and thrilling all the time, you know? Like, isn't that gonna get exhausting? Like aren't you gonna desensitize yourself at some point to like exciting things just because it's gonna feel like nothing anymore? Like if you're constantly chasing highs, you're just gonna get numb to them, and then what are you gonna do? I went off on a full tangent there. Anyway, sorry. My personal life is fine. Okay, another point I wrote down is, or not a point, but like a question, I guess. What is the point of the novel? Because we all know I'm constantly looking for a point in everything. Honestly, there was a lot of, trigger warning, like suicide. Why did I say that so weird? Okay, there's a lot of suicide and like suicidal ideation and just like talk of suicide in general in this book. Like I think every character either engages in like suicidal behavior, they actually do commit suicide, or they have suicidal-ish thoughts. Everyone in this book is like deeply unhappy. I don't know, is deeply correct? I think they're just moderately unhappy. Is my standard for unhappy just skewed because I've been mentally ill since I was conceived? Look, I can't say how unhappy they are. I think that they're just moderately unhappy. I think they're like a normal amount of unhappy for like having children and like being kind of poor, you know? Like they're not, I mean, Elizabeth actually comes from like good money, I think. Things are good enough for them to like continue doing their life thing, you know? The whole living situation. I think the point of the book was to be like, I don't know, just to like bring up the topic of like, what are we living for? Every day just doing the same kind of soul-sucking work. Yeah, just honestly having kids sounds really soul-sucking. And like I really want kids like so badly, but I'm not gonna sit here and be like, that sounds fun. That sounds like apparently like, okay, I saw this in like a video, which I'm not gonna cite it, like sue me, like I don't care. I gave like people a survey, and the people were people with kids and people without kids, and the people without kids scored a lot higher on just being happy in general, but the people with kids claimed to be happier, or like thought that they were happier than people without kids, but they were actually like a lot unhappier. And I feel like even knowing that like I would be happier without kids, I still want them, you know what I mean? Like I think it's just a thing that certain people just like have a gene or whatever that they like want to be tortured by offsprings. Like I think children are a blessing, right? Don't kill me. But they're also a burden, and it's not their fault. Like they are a burden though. Like let's be honest. There's really no way around it. I was a burden, you were a burden, we're all a burden at some point. Anyway, I think like the book was just about like, why even keep living when this is your life? You're just so unhappy with it. Like what do you keep going for? And like, I don't know, I don't even have like an answer really for that, but I feel like the book answered it, but I can't even like explain how. I want to mention this book is like kind of funny. It's kind of funny. I mean, it's like not a comedy, but like, I don't know, the narrator is just, she's kind of like tongue-in-cheek type humor. I don't know. Okay, that's like, she's not like outright funny, but like, I don't know, she's got like a fucked up sense of humor, but I vibe with it. Okay, something I didn't like about the book was I just don't like third person perspective. I just don't like it. It's, I don't know, like I know that it sounds more sophisticated and stuff, and like YA is always like first person, and so maybe I just need a more sophisticated palette. Can palette be used in reference to things other than taste? I hope so. Anyway, I don't know what I was just gonna say. Okay, another thing I didn't like was this book. I don't know if it's really that long. Like, there's not that many pages, but each page is like dense as fuck. And like, it doesn't need to be as long as it is. It could have been so short. It could have been so short. Like, not a lot happens. And look, I love character development. I love having lots of time for character development, but it doesn't need to be this long. Maybe it isn't even that long, but it feels like it is very, very long. One thing I deeply appreciated was that the chapters are very short. Like, I mean, maybe I'm just a slow reader. I swear I didn't used to be this slow, but it takes me like 10 minutes to read a chapter, and the chapter is only like 5 pages max. But like, let me live, okay? The last thing that I wrote down, like the last question I wrote down was, why is it called Life Before Man? So, as I talked about before, Lashaya is a paleontologist, and she likes to frequently imagine her world as if she were living in prehistoric times. I think Atwood wanted this idea of life before man to linger with the audience, not because Lashaya's job is important to the plot, but because the whole book is about how complicated life gets when more people are involved. Like, the more people who are around, the more complicated shit gets, you know? I need to stop saying, you know. Like, actually, I wish that I could just physically remove that from my vocabulary because I'm abusing it. Literally take a shot every time I say you know. You will be in the hospital by the end of the video. Lashaya idealizes life before man because I can't read my own writing. That's why she idealizes life before man. Let me try this again. Lashaya idealizes life before man because it would have been so much simpler. Was that so hard, Sophie? Was that so hard? It was. But anyway, like in prehistoric times, right, like animals just do what they need to do to survive. They do what they need, they do what they want. And that's that. Like, their concern is really not going beyond themselves unless it's like a certain species that like they have children and have to like protect their offsprings. But even then, like, they move on at some point and then they go back to just being like self-concerned. And Lashaya, okay, this is why I don't like her by the end, is like, she's so selfish. Like, she has a real problem with, not William, with Nate's kids just like coming over. Like, she literally gets Nate to leave his family for her. Like, okay, like, I know that's his personal choice, right? Like, that's not her fault at all. Like, I don't believe that, but like, he does that. And then obviously, like, his kids go over to Lashaya and Nate's place because, like, you know, shared custody. Like, that's reasonable. And she's, like, annoyed. Like, she won't talk to the kids. Okay, actually, there's a part I want to read because it's, like, it illustrates how fucked up she is, in my opinion. Lashaya thought of the children and saw a blur. The fact was that, though the children were in her house almost every weekend, she could hardly tell one from the other. She so seldom looked directly at them. Bro, what the fuck? Okay. And then she was talking about, like, just annoying stuff they do, like leave dishes around and everything. Then it says, Nate said she should speak to them about anything they did, which she objected to, but she wasn't such a fool. If she ever really did that, he would hate it. Though they were always scrupulously polite to her, they being the children, as she knew they'd been told to be, by both parents, no doubt. The children were not individuals, they were a collective, a word, the children. He thought all he had to do was say the children and she would shut up like magic. To hell with the children, she says, recklessly. I know you feel that way, said Nate, with patronizing resignation. Like, she's making a lot of assumptions about how he feels. Like, I don't know, I just didn't like that. Do you really expect him to just, like, ignore his kids? Or, like, what do you expect them to be? Like, they're children, like, they're messy. Like, it's, I don't know, like, I know she didn't have these kids herself, but, like, if you make the choice to get involved with someone with children, you're making a choice to be part of their lives, most likely. Like, I know not every situation is like some couples prefer to keep, like, the step parent separate, and you know what, whatever works for you. But if you're getting involved with someone with kids, like, you need to realize that, like, there's a huge possibility that, I mean, most likely you will be a part of their life. Like, they'll see you, you'll have to interact with them. Like, if you're gonna cohabitate with your partner, they're probably gonna cohabitate with you at least part of the time. Just being like, to hell with the children. Like, girl, I know you're entitled to your feelings, but they're kids. They're kids. You're a grown-ass woman. Like, get your shit together, you know? Like, make other choices if you're not happy with this. She just strikes me as, like, an actual child. Oh my god, me using the word child as a derogatory term right after trying to defend children. Anyway, yeah, oh my god, I'm like not aware of my surroundings right now. I'm like bumping into everything. Trigger warning for like suicide shit. Then after this, she like storms upstairs, her boots crashing on the uncarpeted stairs, not caring if the children heard, and locked herself in the bathroom. She was amazed. Wait, fuck, what? On the spur of the moment, she decided to kill herself. I didn't mean to laugh at that. I was laughing. There's too much happening in my brain, okay? Like, this is ADHD. After this, she decides not to kill herself because she doesn't really want to die. She just wants to, like, she wants to, like, be an event, you know? That's actually, like, a lot of the characters in this book are, like, they just want to, like, I don't know, Lashaya imagines Chris killing himself, like, from his perspective, and she's like, she's never understood it before, but then she's like, I get it now, like, he wanted to be significant, like, Elizabeth wouldn't leave her family for Chris, and so he felt unimportant, much like how Lashaya is feeling now. Like, she isn't the mother of Nate's kids, like, she's always just gonna be, like, a side piece, like, that's how she's gonna feel, right? And yeah, so she wants to be, like, an event, she wants to be something significant, and if you kill yourself, right, like, that's memorable. Just, like, I hope this doesn't get taken down. She doesn't really want to die, just she wants to be an event. She wants to be memorable, like, she wants to be an important, even if it's, like, in a negative way, she wants to be in Nate's mind. There's another way to get what she wants, which is to be an event. And so she flushes her birth control down the toilet, fucks Nate, and then gets pregnant. I think that's actually sexual assault. Is it not? Like, that's unconsensual, having unprotected sex. Like, you literally, oh my god, my ear is like making this noise. Okay. Why? What? He didn't consent to have unprotected sex and you literally tricked him, so sounds like sexual assault to me. So I have like actually no idea what the legal things are around that. I have no idea if it is technically or not, but it's unethical either way. Also, having a baby to try to like fix your problems, I don't need to explain why that's not the move, right? That was like enough. That and like her building up on just kind of her not caring about the kids, her just feeling like, well, they're not my kids, so they're not my responsibility. Like, I wasn't a fan of that, and I feel like that is enough for me to like fully dislike her. I thought she was pretty cool before. I thought she was kind of an autistic icon, but we don't stand anymore. That's like all I really have to say about that book. I feel like I missed things, but like, I don't know. It is a good story, but you have to really like reading. You have to really like reading to get through it. Also, you have to be the kind of person that like you finish something that you start. Like, you don't just like start it and like get bored and like end it. Honestly, I hate reading like that. Like, I can't do that. Like, even if I don't like the book, I have to finish it, because like I can't like form an opinion on something if I didn't read all the content. Like, that just makes no sense. So yeah, I don't know. If you're someone who like, I mean, I'm not telling you to waste your time on books that you don't like, but just like don't be like, oh, it was terrible if you like didn't finish it. If like a large enough portion of the population says that it's good and you just discard it as like garbage even though you didn't finish reading it, maybe you're the problem actually. Anyway, that's like, yeah, that's everything. I guess I could go over what I'm reading now. What am I reading now? I just started The Picture of Dorian Gray. Also, I wanted to recommend How I Met My Husband by Alice Munro, which I've never read any Alice Munro before, but I read this because I was doing like an assignment on it for school. And like, it's like one of my favorite things ever now. It's just a short story, but it's like, man, it resonated with me. It was so good. Like, I don't know. I just think that there's like so much to explore in it, and like there is, you know, like, I don't know. She's a very good reader. She's also Canadian, and she's a she, which is cool. So if you take anything away from this video, I want you to read How I Met My Husband by Alice Munro. You can literally find a PDF of it online for free. Like, it won't take you that long to read. Just read it, okay? This is a threat. If you don't read it, I will be coming to your house. I'm actually working on a painting based on it, although I don't even, oh my god, okay. I basically plagiarized this from the internet. It's not done, and she looks like the devil a little bit with that, I don't know, I need to redo her face. But it's supposed to be like, I don't know. I saw a painting online that like, I don't know if it's really from the story, but it looks like it fits the story, right? And I was like, I want that on my wall. So I painted over an ugly painting that I did like over the span of like 2 years because I just didn't want to work on it. And then I painted this. It's not finished. It's not going to be ugly forever unless I just stop working on it, which I haven't worked on it in like several days. I have no motivation to finish it really. We'll see. We'll see. Why is painting like that? Like, I actually just lose all motivation to like finish a painting. Like, I only want to paint like once a year. Anyway, I'm also reading, what is it called? Why don't I know the name of anything? What am I reading? Dreamwork. It's Dreamwork by Mary Oliver. I got that from my mom for Christmas, and I wanted it because honestly, I was like mainly writing poetry for a very long time, and I didn't read that much poetry. Like, I read more than the average person, but I did not read that much poetry for a poet. So I really needed to change that, and I need to read more than just Sylvia Plath. Those are the only things that I've like actively been reading over the past few weeks. Mary Oliver, I'm not rushing through that one because again, it's poetry. There's like, the point is not to read it as fast as you can. So yeah, I'm taking notes on that one. I'll definitely do a video on that because like it's actually pretty good. Like, I didn't expect to like it that much because I'm not a nature poetry type of person. But I got some feedback on my own poetry from my prof, and she was like, you need to be like less obvious. Like, you need to like trust your reader more and like stop just telling them how to feel about it, and like just illustrate something that makes them feel that way, right? Like, illustrate something that isn't just so obvious, you know? And I thought of Mary Oliver's work because we read some of it in class, and I felt like it was similar to what I want to write, at least what we read in class. And then I like looked at some reviews of her work, and I was like, oh, it's nature. Great, okay. And then I actually don't dislike it. So yeah, that sounds like not good. I like it. I don't just not dislike it. I do in fact also like it. I'm just gonna leave because I will keep talking. So goodbye.